Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Morning Coffee. I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go because we have to talk about crypto and we are getting straight to the point. Crypto, especially Bitcoin, is now, since a small counter trend rally, actually going down again, and we are only at 67,394. As I mentioned before, this is already a very weak rally, right? And probably a good time to buy also. This we discussed in the last live stream. If you haven't seen it and all the reasons why this could be a good point to buy, then I recommend that you go there. But today we have to talk about institutions that are loading up on crypto while everyone else is scared. And that is actually an interesting thing for me to see because I didn't expect this type of loading up, because it's not only Bitcoin, but it's also other crypto, so altcoins as well. So while altcoins are massively oversold, I can show this to you as well. But we are deep in a bear market, right? We see it here in the TSI. We're deep in the bear market. The RSI, actually, let's get rid of this white line. The RSI is also in the undervalued box, right? So this is why I do think from a chart technical perspective, that's a good time to buy. We might form a bottom out here. Some people say we have between 150 and 250 days to load up on Bitcoin. I sure as hell hope that we will stay down there for 200 days or so that people can really stack sats. Now, what's the news? Goldman Sachs, they had to display this in their 13F filing, and they have 2.36 billion worth of crypto in this filing, of which 1.1 billion is Bitcoin. But there's another billion that is Ethereum, and then also they are holding 150 million XRP and 110 million Solana. And of course that is good, right? That's good. We see these entities have loaded up on altcoins as well. So we're seeing that. Today the live stream is a little bit earlier. On the other hand, this might be positive, right? And there's also Cathie Wood and ARK Invest. They floated up another 60 million or so on Bitcoin. But we also do have warning signs in the market, right? And I want to highlight this again from No Limit, a very popular account right now, because he called the Bitcoin top correctly. And also, by the way, if you go back in his history, he apparently called the previous bottom as well correctly. So a very interesting account to see, apparently also with insider knowledge. Now what he is saying is insiders are currently dumping billions of dollars worth of stocks. Yeah, they probably don't know what they're doing, right? Full breakdown. Of course, when insiders are selling stocks, it's likely based also on inside information. We do see here in this list Warburg, Pincus, what is this? Stryker. This Stryker Corporation was one of the biggest insider sales sell-offs that have been observed also in the last week. Richard K. Templeton, whatever, right? So we do see a lot of directors and CEOs and officers, right, that should know why they are selling stocks to the market. And we're not talking about crypto, we are really talking about stocks. And we do see also the value here: 250 million, 200 million, 100 million, and 90 million. There's one buy in this, but the rest is just offloading, right? They're offloading shares. These are proposed sales. So the orange ones are proposed sales. The red ones are actual sales. So this right there is 500 million of the director, right? 500 million Um, so this could hint at they're knowing something, or they're scared of the market, and maybe the stock market might be in trouble there. And if the stock market goes lower, or starts to crumble, especially in the Mag 7, then this could also have another downward push effect on crypto in the immediate short term. But of course, long term, I would say we're absolutely bullish. Another one is this. This is also interesting from Kobayashi letter, and we could look at a couple of more posts from them because they're somehow a little bit pessimistic here all the time. But this is the China Consumer Confidence Index, and consumer confidence has dropped off massively and is now lingering down there, which is also interesting, right? So are we going into stock market problems worldwide? Maybe, right? But it can take it can take a whole lot longer than people expect, right? People see some signs in the market, like the delinquency rates that I showed yesterday. Um, I mean, we do see it here also, right? Leveraged tech ETFs are out of control. There are now a record 108 long and 31 short tech related leveraged ETFs. This is 3 times more than the second largest sector, financials, with 47 funds. So there are a lot of financial products on technology, which shows once more that probably there is an absolute bubble territory in certain tech stocks, where these companies, of course, that offer these financial products, they are making money without being exposed to the risk, right? So that is always something that we have to keep in mind. Then we also see gold inventories at the Shanghai Futures Exchange vaults are skyrocketing. Deliverable gold in the Shanghai Futures Exchange, measured by warehouse warrants, up 104 tons, an absolute parabolic move here since basically mid 2024 all the way through 2025, and then 2026 is now completely going nuts. I mean, these are only a couple of signs, but if you go one by one, right? Whereas Robinhood stock, right, has a very bad Q4 revenue posting, minus 10%, falling. Lower than expected revenue posting, right? So these are exchanges that offered also crypto, and so we see really not that much good news coming out where you would say, okay, the economy is stabilizing, the news are great, right? So we might be going into something that could be a market drawdown at least, or even a market crash in the broader markets, right? And if that happens, it could drag crypto further down and put in a new cycle low. Although I don't think it will put crypto in danger, but there must be a lot of bits stacked in the 50,000 area where we would bounce again. And even at the 60,000, probably they are restacking right now the bits. So this also, right, Americans are extremely bullish on the stock market. 50% of Americans now expect the stock market to rise over the next 6 months, the second highest reading since 2020, which means, right, usually the majority is wrong. Now we have 50-50, but 50 that are extremely bullish. We will see what happens. What is interesting though is when we're looking at Bitcoin, right, sometimes and we could overlay this, right? So how does let's take the Nasdaq as a comparison, US Tech 100 in a new price scale, and let's get rid of the other lines. I mean, here we see it, right? There's some correlation going on between crypto and or at least something you could read, right? And the interesting here it is at the same time, but sometimes it seems that crypto, right, the blue line being the Nasdaq. Let me give you more space to this chart. Let's put it that way, right? that crypto sometimes even acts as a canary in a coal mine, where you already see the drawdown, and then you have it in the market, right? I mean, we saw here the trouble, and then the market crashed here also in 2021. So this drawdown came once it started, came it's 244 days before this crash, right? And that was basically where Bitcoin had almost topped, and then this rally came in and lifted probably Bitcoin a little bit up, and then there was the bear market, right? And the bear market ended as in the Nasdaq at almost at the same time, or at the same time as in Bitcoin. So the question is now, could Bitcoin be once more like in 2017, canary in the coal mine? And you say, okay, maybe we are front running it 200 days, just guessing, right? Absolute guess, because no one knows. Could we see a stock market problem in May? And why would we see that? I don't know, but there is Mr. Walsh being new Fed chair, so exchange Fed chair, new policy. If this Fed chair does announce a hawkish policy because of this and that, which would be unexpected by the market, then we could also see something like that, right? The other side of the coin is obviously, hey, Bitcoin bottoming, right? I do believe we could see for the Bitcoin bottom, and maybe during that time also sluggish crypto market without not a sluggish crypto, that's for sure a disastrous crypto market, but sluggish, for example, Nasdaq or Nasdaq correction in that time, right? But if we say, okay, we are close to the in Bitcoin now, we are close to the 200-week moving average. So that would put us here. I have to zoom in later, and then let's take the whole bottoming. So it could look like this, right? There we go. I don't really want to get rid of I hope you can see this, right? But I don't really want to get rid of a lot of these things, because somehow we need it, either as a forecast. Maybe we go to another chart where it's easier to see. Actually, let's do that. Let's go to the Coinbase chart and get rid of everything that's here. Yeah, and let's get rid of the Nasdaq again. Like what we could do is, what is probably an interesting exercise, is taking these bottoms and putting them here. So that would be a 47,000 bottom, which is not unrealistic, right? And then let's take the waterfall collapse bottom of that time. But here you are, right? If that's the moving average, you are down here, right? So you'd have something like this, which is the second scenario, where you drop deep, 38,000, but then you recover fast. And then, yeah, but then we don't really have much more data, right? We don't really have much more bottoms, right? I mean, this chart at least doesn't. Yeah, maybe this here, right? We don't have the moving average to compare it, but in either way, that would put still 150 days, right? Just as mentioned by a lot of people, to how long this bottom could be in any form or shape, right? That's what I would expect based on the previous. And of course, I wouldn't expect that the bottom looks exactly like this or this scenario, right? I wouldn't expect that the bottom looks exactly like this or exactly like this, but maybe something else, right? It's always a little bit something else, right? But that is what I would expect for a bottoming scenario. Now, the dollar. Let's get to the dollar quickly. Um, by the way, if you like the stuff and you watch it later or so, but do me the favor, smash up the like button. Just looking at a couple of things that interest me personally. We do have some kind of a smaller support level going on here for the dollar. And we do see that we have a really nasty, or in our ways, positive candle for the dollar value. Also, something that probably Trump must like because they want a lower dollar value. But I feel that we have this support level going on, and then we will see if we can lose it, right? There was a couple of posts about this. Let me quickly see where this was. Yeah, there we go. So someone posted this for the US dollar, that there's a mega trend line going on that might be broken right now. And if we break it, then we could see a swift move to the downside, right? And that is an absolute valid thing to look at, right? Also, we could go out of I mean, there's not much difference between logarithmic and non-logarithmic. But that would be a trend line that goes, like, this is a more macro view even, right? That is a trend line that goes from this bottom to along this high, along this low here, where you have little touch points, right, to draw this. But that would be the, let me get this line in straight also, right? Sorry, yeah. That would be the break already, right? If that trend line is any valid thing for a trader or so, then this is going to be already a significant break to the downside, right here. Probably it's then like this, right? That would be the bearish retest, and then the dollar should fall more. This is what we would expect. What do we have coming up? 2 days. In 2 days, we have readings coming up. Core inflation year over year, inflation rate month over month, inflation rate year over year. That is it. And what I would say is, the more we do see these uncertainty things, like this mega volatility, for example, in gold. There we go. For example, in gold, right? Gold is on the rise again. We are above 5,000 again. The volume is even more increasing. The more we are seeing this stuff, the more I would say something is coming, right? Something that is probably a major drawdown or a crash is coming. So I would say it's absolutely valid to even have a cash reserve if you don't have it right now, because, for example, you allocated at 60,000 for Bitcoin, which is absolutely fair. I would still say it's valid to get into it, right? So one thing would be, for example, to look out for S&P 500 drawdown like this, right? When it smashes the first time through the bull market support band. And this could be 6 months down the road, right? But there's also some validity in looking for buying the stock market when it's down, right? For example, here, look at, for example, this. I own this all world dividend yield ETF. Like I'm invested in this. We see that at some points you can basically buy 15% off in smaller corrections, right? If we're looking at the history of this thing, of course, I mean, here in 2020, you could buy for a short period of time 35% off. It then took 400 days or so, and it went back to the level where it came from, 50% going up. But the thing is paying like dividends every 3 months, so giving a cash flow, right? And this is what I'm looking at, right? I want to have a lot of Bitcoin, much more than is recommended, right? But I also want to have a couple of things that like pay dividends, and maybe is not performing that well, but is also more stable. 2,000 values in this stock, right? Or there might be stuff like petroleum, right? Like BP or so, which I was by the way, I was observing this. This is an interesting one. BP, British Petrol PLC. They have this. Let's go to the monthly. What I was observing, and I did buy this actually, this stock in the where is the crash? Where is this downturn? This is actually something I traded, right? Oh, this was this downturn, right? Here in this July crash, when it was really, really low in price, I did buy it, and I did sell it somewhere here in these early drawdowns. Now it seems it's. I mean, probably if you draw this clean, right? You are looking at a potential breakout, but it's not confirmed, right? Taking the wicks here, if we're taking the candle bodies, it's a different story, right? It's something to observe. I want to see something significant, but there are opportunities everywhere, right? What I want to tell is, if the market takes a downturn like this, right, we must be ready. We must have worthless dollars to convert into assets, right? And the market is full of stuff. I mean, Circle, look at Circle, right? Could Circle, I mean, we don't have much data, so let's go to the weekly, right? But could Circle be a buy, right? I don't know. It looks like an altcoin chart, right? I don't know. But what I do know is that there is definitely a downtrend going on here, that the moment this breaks, this could still be a buy, right? In the stock, or here, Robinhood, right? We do see the signs already. They didn't get the earnings. They are down 50%. Like, this can happen. So bottom line of what I'm telling is, there is always a train leaving the station, right? There's always a train. We don't have to FOMO into high assets, because there are always options, right? For example, there's no need to FOMO into Tesla here right now. Everyone is giga bullish on Tesla. That doesn't mean that, like, Tesla isn't even like on the highest RSI. Of course it can go up more, but we have seen times in Tesla where we had a high overvalued RSI and then we went down 70%, right? So these times exist. So these are just things that I'm looking at in my watch list, besides Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin is now, in my opinion, in this exact moment where that's a good time to buy Bitcoin, right? Whereas most of the time up here for over a year, it was not, right? Now it's under the bull market support band. It's close to 200-week moving average. And the moment that it crashes, the moment that Bitcoin crashes through or smashes through the 200-week moving average, where I do think is a good chance, right? That is when it, in my opinion, is on fire sale, right? This box. And this rarely happens, right? We do see it here. It was shorter than a month. It was through this, and here it was only at it, right? So I do expect that this fire sale is going to happen. And the last bear market, it only lasted for 200 days, right? But of course, I want to accumulate at these levels already, because we could have a bear market like this, right? And I don't want to be without accumulating any sats. But I'm still on a waiting position where I want to accumulate harder, right? So I want to be, going back to the title and topic of the stream, I want to be in the same game as Goldman Sachs that is accumulating, right? So I want to buy Bitcoin and I want to buy Ethereum and I might want to buy Solana, right? But I personally don't want to buy XRP. I just don't. I'm not a fan. So, yeah. And in general, I mean, there are good altcoin projects in the market, right? And everything is on absolute sale. And this is something which is also worth talking about. Let me see this. This is also not it. Where is it? I had an altcoin chart where we did see. Let me search it quickly. No, these are all videos. I thought I had an altcoin chart where we did see an absolute undervaluation of altcoins, but I mean, you can also see it everywhere. And let's just say, let's go to VeChain just for, and I have been horribly wrong on VeChain for what it's going to do in the last market. And that is because I assumed that VeChain is going to have a bull market, right? Just as I expected every other altcoin to have a rally at some point. But the only thing that VeChain did was going swiftly and briefly to 8 cents, where there was the first round to take some profit. So my profit taking was way too low, right? Now VeChain is back to critical, let's say critical support level where it was before the last bull run, right? So it's almost there. It's not quite there yet where the candle close are at 006, but it's almost there. And I mean, the correction from the cycle high is 90%. This is insane, right? So now the question for altcoins is, are altcoins collectively dead, right? Or are the altcoins of the previous cycles collectively dead? Well, then, if that's the case, and Solana is one of these, then Goldman Sachs just dumped 110 million into that altcoin, right? I mean, of course, VeChain and Solana are not of the same build, but I would argue that there is at some point a reason for altcoins to go up again, and that environment needs to be created. And that for that environment, I'm going to separate a couple small percent of my portfolio and investment to be ready in case this environment that brought VeChain to these levels happens again, right? The story is different if you go to Solana. Here, by the way, right? Solana lost exactly this. We were talking about this, I think, couple of weeks ago, that this is a head and shoulders pattern. And if this level of confluence is lost, then there's going to be a big downturn for Solana, right? So we did it. We did exactly that, right? And Noetic Signal said, could you look at Sol and check some support levels? Where is the next support level below 84? Where are we now? So what I would highlight for Solana is we have this thing here. This level is basically an air pocket, right? Because it just went up. There is no major resistance. And now I would say the next logical support level would be this area, though, within this so-called air pocket, because this area you can see has a lot of confluence, right? So I would expect Solana to go to 43 and then find some support there. That doesn't mean it has to go that deep, but I would expect that to be a potential bottom for Solana, just because of these confluence levels. That, I mean, you have to see, this was where overhead resistance was then flipped into support right here, lost again, right? So there are like here it was then bearish retest. This is the only level that I can see that anything is happening below this level. I mean, this is support already where we are sitting, right? This is some kind of a support. This is support here, right? But I would expect if we drop, then this is the next level. But this, I mean, you see it here, right? This was a bull market support, this was a support level for 1, 2, 3, 4 months. This was a 4-month support level, and then here it was again support, and now it is again support, right? So for Solana, I would say these are the levels. One that we are right now. If we lose it, let's put the price label on it. Right, so the 80, and then here I would say it's this 43.35 or so. Does that make sense? By the way, the monthly the monthly TSI called the bear market for Solana here, which was actually 1 month below the after the all-time high. And I think what was getting everyone wrecked, including me, is that we didn't really find a high RSI this cycle in nothing, right? So the assumption was, if we reach these RSI levels, and I mean VeChain has more chart. Let me get to that USDT. Oops, that's not the right chart. That is right. So here you can still see it, right? That was my assumption. My profit taking levels were like, okay, if we get a rally, I take profit here. Okay. So that was reached, and then nothing, right? So the assumption was for that, okay, if we reach an RSI of like beyond 80, that's where I'm going to sell hardcore into the all these retails that are going to buy. But retail was completely wrecked by financial conditions and didn't buy, and there was no crypto euphoria, only institutional bid on Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum, right? And then this never happened. I mean, look at this. VeChain went to 57 on the RSI, and that's where it hit 8 cents. That's based or judging from the previous environment, that's nowhere near where you would say, okay, that must be the end of the rally, right? So we learned from these things, right? Yeah, 100,000 VET for $750. That's such a tempting deal. Exactly. Especially if as it's sitting at this previous bull market level, right? And so also another thing that got everyone wrecked, I think, and also including me, is look at total 2, right? Total 2 and total 3 and even others. So the collective altcoin market, that was this. This was, look at the setup. This is the dream setup for everyone, right? And then it didn't happen. It even faked out to the upside 2 times, and then it didn't happen, right? A massive cup and handle, and then invalidated, right? I think this is, I will leave this in here forever, because this is the absolute perfect example why you can't take a position or trade based on a lower time frame breakout, because it's fake. It was a fake out for 3 months. 3 months above the bull market support band, basically saying we're breaking out right now, and it didn't. It didn't happen, right? And now we are back to the moving average for altcoins, right? We did 5 what is that? The collective altcoin market is down 47.9% right now and was down even worse. Collective altcoin market was down 52%. Smashed through this 200-week moving average, which could also be, right, look at this. It briefly happened here, here, here. It always happens, but it's almost at the bottom. So you could make the argument that maybe that's where it's already worth buying some altcoins, but then look at how long it took from these bottom ranges for another upswing in the altcoin, right? It's that much more risky. 400 days, 500 days. So I would say there's no stress in accumulating altcoin, right? There's no reason to overextend on dry powder allocation because we're just at this for the first, like at this moving average again. We've touched it, by the way, during the bull also, right? I mean, that already shows you it's not like here where we just went ballistic and never came back to the average. We were bouncing on this average, on this moving average. So it's going to be really, really interesting what could happen, right? One thing that I want to look at is ETH USDT, where this also is like drawn in since ages, right? We did it together. Also here, right? The RSI trend line. I would expect a bounce here, right? I would expect a bounce here for ETH. But who knows, right? I mean, we could also collapse here because if you see this, right? I mean, there is a massive air pocket below this level, or not like below this level, but we could collapse here and go back to, I don't know, 1,000-ish if we lose this level, right, for ETH. It's also interesting. Let's check out ETH BTC because that was, yeah, Ethereum against Bitcoin, right? We also drew this in, like as you can see here, somewhere between in 23 or so. And then this support level where we expected to bounce. But look at this, like this was a very weak rally. Yeah. I still want to see total 2 against BTC. I mean, why does it not work? I don't understand. But every altcoin that you put, like Sol against BTC, that works. Also, right? Sol against BTC. I mean, it never got to outperform like this, right? There was an outperformance in 23 when crypto bottomed. Altcoins can go so far down, you can't even imagine how far. Absolutely. I mean, you can go down 90% and then another 90% and then another 90%, and you always throw money into this. That can absolutely happen. This is why, I mean, there is no return like this, and this is like in BTC terms, but 7,000% against BTC, right? There's no return like this without the absolute massive risk that you're taking in that market to lose it all, right? And no one believes it when the market is up, that you could, right? I mean, you have this Pippin, right? What's the risk that this never pops? On the other side, you have this year Trump coin down 80%, right? Or Jupiter 83%, or VeChain 77%, or Aptos 84%. It's like people believe that one altcoin in specific is like superior or something like that. I mean, you have, of course, the privacy coins. They did good, right? You have Monero here, for example, right? Of course, things like this can happen, right? Like Monero, which, right? But it also broke now again many times through its bull market support. Monero could go back to 200, right? In no time. Could happen. I think that's it for Monero, right? I think that's it for Monero. Now it's a bear market coming from Monero as well. Yeah. These are all, lots and lots of altcoins to look at. Okay. Long-term projection. Here we go. This is an interesting chart in my opinion. Bitcoin's road to maturity. And it has 3 projection lines, right? A purple one that goes very, very shallow, but still is like basically where the bottoms are placed or so. Which is the model according to the internet adoption, right? If Bitcoin adopts like the internet, it would go like this. I highly doubt it because we have seen in the last years that the adoption of Bitcoin was steeper than the internet. But that would put it at 150,000 or so and not much more, right? That I doubt that this is going to happen. But of course, that would be an absolute worst case scenario, right? Then you have the BTC model with a wallet power curve. This is the orange line up here, which is a long-term projection to 1 million by 2036-7-ish, right? And then you have the wallets, another wallets power curve model, which is more linear. That goes beyond 1 million, right? So these are from Bloomberg, Have Analytics, whatever, right? The chart is from Fidelity, but it's published there on Bloomberg. Yeah. So these are conservative projections on maturity, right? And I would argue that for a worldwide commodity, that's an understatement, right? This, although I see the point and I would be absolutely fine with Bitcoin going to 1 million until 2036, I would say that we have to factor in not only adoption in itself, and valuation, like for example, looking at gold, the trillions that you can have there, but also certain factors that just make Bitcoin superior, which will make it not only be adopted by 8 billion people in the world, but also by machines basically, and enterprises and companies that are going to use it in some way or form, as we're seeing it right now, right? I mean, Goldman Sachs has $1 billion worth in Bitcoin. They're probably going to have another $1 billion this year. And then what didn't pop, for example, this cycle is the strategic reserve topic, right? It's somewhere there, and there is a strategic stockpile. But the central banks of this world didn't go and add to the strategic stockpile by buying from the market. They're looking to seize Bitcoin from illegal operations and add that to their stockpile. So the expectation of traders and speculants are not met, right? And I think this is giving us the present of another super volatile cycle, at least one, maybe two, in which money can be made, right? I mean, you see these steep waves, you see these waves here. And this is something where I would pull up this year. Don't look at all-time highs, look at the yearly lows, right? And this is from 2015 onwards, because everything below that is just pennies, right? we came from $185 low, and then we had a $365 low, and then a $781, and then we were already in the thousands, right? And the lows in these years, in these bear market years, were 3,200 to 3,400, leading to a $5,000 low in 2020, and then we had a $25,000 low there. 2022 bear market bottom at 15.4, leading to the next year basically bottoming out and already being on the upwards trend with the correction on 16.4 thousand. And 2024 had a $38.5 thousand low, leading to 2025, which we have to look up now. What was the low in this area of 2025, right? The low of 2025 was here, 75,000. And then so far we have a $60,000 low in 2026, right? So far. So that means we have 75,000 coming here, and then 60,000 coming here. So you see the lows are an uptrend, right? And then you have all these people saying in the market right now, shitting on Bitcoin, right? You have these FUD narratives going on for Bitcoin, right? Like, for example, yesterday I heard, oh, Bitcoin is not the safe haven asset that it promised to be. Really? Because if we take this lows narrative and we look at from where we were in 2019 and we go to where we are on our maybe bear market bottom today, or our level today, we have a staggering 1,878% return. If you just absolutely take out, if you had bought there, obviously if you have bought there, right? But if you average this out, like this is literally what the moving average tells, right? Let's take the moving average, like the average from here to the average level from there, 1,700% over 2,588 days. Over, what is that, 1,700% in what is that, the year here? From 2019 to 2026, we are only in the beginning of 2026. 6 years, 1,700% return. How is that not a safe haven asset, right? Even though it's going up and down in this range, does it really matter over this time frame if that's your appreciation curve? Of course, it did preserve your wealth from here to here with a 19x. Those comments that BTC is not a safe haven asset is coming from new bag holders that just bought in. 100% agree with you. By the way, smash up the like button if you believe that this is true. And I will tell a couple of more things, right, to the FUD narrative. Another FUD narrative that is coming out is paper Bitcoin is diluting the supply, and the 21 million Bitcoin is no longer a cap. This is another FUD narrative. It's completely idiotic. And the funny thing is, throughout the entire time from here all the way to here, which is the ETF narrative. By the ETFs, they came back in at the halving, right? That was April. Where was it? April? Here, right? It was here. Sorry, was it here? No, it was here, right? In 2024. Yeah, that was a rally into 70,000. So the halving was here, right? All this time was basically, oh, there's going to be ETFs. No one cared about this. It's like, it's scarce. The ETFs have to buy. And suddenly here we're coming down and everyone's like, the ETFs, paper money, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is the ETFs, they have to buy the underlying Bitcoin, right? And of course there's options trading and so on. On every asset in the world it is. But on Bitcoin, it's a problem now. On Bitcoin, it's paper money, it's diluting the supply. Whereas on gold, obviously, right now, gold is in a bull market, and silver is in a bull market, and everyone is buying gold and silver. Everyone is stealing the tea cups and knives and forks from their grandmas because they're made of silver. There, of course, paper dilution is not a problem, but on Bitcoin, it's diluting the cap. Such a bullshit story. The moment that we bottom and go up again, this story will be gone. The next story is, Michael Saylor is going to implode. He will not be able to pay his obligations and blah blah. Right? Let me show you something. I'll pull something up from Michael Saylor. This is the next fun narrative. I would say if Michael Saylor implodes and Bitcoin goes down, it's going to be a once in a lifetime buying opportunity for Bitcoin, because Michael Saylor is not Satoshi, is not the god of Bitcoin, right? Instead, Saylor is going to either Saylor will make it, then he will drive up Bitcoin like forever, or he is not going to make it, and then he will make one of the largest presents in history to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin will go to such low levels that many of us that still believe in this will be able to become whole coiners. And then the market will bounce back, recover, and go to new highs, right? But either way, right? But listen to this.
Key to keep in mind is that Bitcoin is digital capital. It's going to be 2 to 4 times as volatile as traditional capital like gold or equity or real estate. It's got 2 to 4 times the performance this decade of traditional capital. It's the most useful global capital asset in the world. You can put more leverage on it. You can trade it in more ways than any other kind of capital asset. So,
and this is absolutely true, right? I mean, this is facts. This is facts. He's not. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Michael. The moment that we went down on Bitcoin, everyone started criticizing Michael Saylor, right? Before he was the god and savior of the crypto market. Now he is an evil guy that is telling half truths and blah blah, is putting the market in danger. It's bullshit.
The volatility is the bug, but the volatility is the feature. And we believe that digital capital, because it's so much more performance, is the basis for an entirely new set of financial instruments that we call digital credit.
Is there any argument to be made, though, and given that that Bitcoin has sort of done a round trip since the beginning of this administration, that we are now finally getting to some kind of price discovery moment that's fundamentally different? That in the past, Bitcoin, because it wasn't in ETFs, because it wasn't as broad-based, that there wasn't the kind of price discovery that's now available today, and maybe these prices are more realistic than what had been the case before.
Well, there's no doubt the asset is seasoning, and that's a good thing. We just had an all-time high, Andrew, 4 months ago. October 6th, I believe. So if you've got a time horizon of less than 4 years, you're not really a capital investor, you're a trader, and the traders are having a field day with the volatility. Good.
Exactly, right? So we just came from an all-time high. It's not like that we have underperformed and put in lower highs on a macro scale, right? Over a course of 4, 5, 6, 8 years, right? It's 4 months ago is the previous all-time high, and now we're down to 67,000
for them. But the capital investors are looking out 4 years, and if you look at a 4-year time frame, Bitcoin is 2 to 3x the performance of the alternative capital assets, and anything built on Bitcoin over a 4-year or more time frame is going to outperform for the same reason.
The concern, as you know, about strategy itself, to the extent that there are worries within the Bitcoin community, is that, you know, if Bitcoin continues to fall, and I know you've made the argument that you have enough cash on hand to handle this for the next 2 years, that there could be a moment at which you have to sell, not buy.
Yeah, that's an unfounded concern. The truth is our net leverage ratio is half the typical investment grade company. We've got 50 years worth of dividends in Bitcoin. We've got 2.5 years worth of dividends just in cash on our balance sheet.
Okay, so they can pay their dividends and obligations in cash for 2.5 years and in Bitcoin for 50 years.
So
Which would mean, but if they pay a Bitcoin dividend, technically that Bitcoin dividend is a secondary sale, right? This we have to keep in mind. If they pay a Bitcoin dividend, even though it's like smaller chunks, the person that receives the Bitcoin dividend can sell it into the market, and therefore that would apply sell pressure.
we're not going to be selling. We're going to be buying Bitcoin. I expect we'll be buying Bitcoin every quarter forever.
Just so we all understand, what is the price at which this story gets much more complicated for you and therefore the rest of the Bitcoin community? I think there's a sense that given how large a player you are, if the price of Bitcoin were to fall to a place and continue to stay there for 2.5 years from now, and you were forced into a selling position, that unto itself could create a cascading problem.
Andrew, if Bitcoin falls 90% for the next 4 years, we'll refinance the debt.
Okay, so this is important, right? He is going to say also how many years they can live just off of the cash that they have. And before you think, yeah, but he can say everything he wants, blah, blah, right? Mislead investors and so on. He can't. He has a public traded company, and if he would make false statements about the cash reserves and the abilities that they have to pay, that would be a felony.
Refinance where, Michael?
We'll just roll it forward. I mean, again.
But yeah. you think banks would lend to you at that point?
Yeah, because the volatility of Bitcoin is such that there's always going to be value. Look, you're at 68,000 right now. Literally has to fall to 8,000. Then we just refinance the debt. If you think it's going to zero, then we'll deal with that. But I don't think it's going to zero, and I don't think it's going to 8,000 either. But the credit risk is de minimis at this point.
I guess the bigger question is, I know you have a stock of cash that you can use to continue to pay out the dividends and beyond. How long does that carry you through?
2.5 years, Becky.
I thought you had some.
We've got 2.5 years of cash. We wouldn't have to raise any money.
Okay, so that includes the debt. That includes the debt due next year as well.
We have 2.5 years of dividend coverage and debt coverage in cash.
This basically means for Michael Saylor to having to even consider refinancing needs or requires Bitcoin to not go up but go down for 2.5 years straight, which never happened in Bitcoin's history so far. So how come that the same people that are believing in 4-year cycle also are scared of MicroStrategy imploding, even though they should know that no bear market bottom has lasted that long, right? Plus, financial conditions are likely to improve based on the new Fed chair's policies. So we will see, right? Trump would just pardon him like CZ. Rich guys don't go to jail in the US. I think that's not the point here, right? I don't think that's not the point, because he is the face of the crypto market, right? It would do tremendous harm no matter if he goes to jail and then is pardoned or not. I think that's not the point. The point is, this is an experiment that either outcome of this experiment is going to be valuable for us as investors, right? Either it works, then it's going to drive the Bitcoin price, or it doesn't work, then it will be a once-in-a-lifetime buying opportunity, right? Both work. Even my chart shows 7K. What does that mean? Like what does it mean it shows 7K? Is that where I can also put a price tag on somewhere down below and say I will buy there? But remember, whoever was here, I know that a lot of you guys were here in the last bear market. In the last bear market, everyone was saying my chart shows 12K, and they never went in that area, right? The Bitcoin bottomed at 15.4, and everyone with their 12K targets was left with a dick in their hand, right? So, and we have this mass adoption around the world. All governments are going into Bitcoin. If that's the case, there's no way BTC goes down for 2 years straight. Absolutely. I mean, it's highly unlikely. And he himself said, if it would be the case, right? Listen to a little bit more, right?
We raised $4 billion this year so far. We raised $25 billion last year. There isn't credit risk to the company. The story here is that the digital credit, STRC, is the most popular credit instrument of the decade. It's trading 100 times as much as traditional preferred stocks, and it generates 2 to 4 times the cash flow of any other fixed income instrument. So that's the revolution taking place. There isn't any credit risk in the balance sheet of the company.
Why do you think the stock's down 60% over the last year?
The company's engineered to be amplified Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes up, we go up faster. When Bitcoin falls, our volatility is higher. We've created an asset that's got an 80 vol, and so the stock falls because Bitcoin's been in a bear market for the past 4 months. It's been an extreme drawdown. But at the same time, you know, the other day we had a 25% increase in the stock price in a single day. Our stock is more liquid, on a market cap basis than any of the Mag 7 stocks by a factor of 2, 3, 4. The open interest is the greatest open interest of any of the major stocks.
It's basically leveraged Bitcoin, right? And that's what people don't understand. They compare it to another stock and say, but for a stock, you are falling a lot, right? Bitcoin's down 50%, MicroStrategy is down 60%, of course, because it's leveraged Bitcoin.
In the market. So that volatility creates interest, creates liquidity, creates the opportunity for us to issue the digital credit.
Michael, can you help us with one thing? There's some folks in the community, the Bitcoin community, that believe that there's a floor on Bitcoin at around $60,000 because that is the average price that is effectively or cost, I should say, for miners, and that as a result, the arbitrage will always be around that price. I don't know if you think that's true or not, or whether you think there's a possibility it could fall below that, in which case, what happens to those miners? Obviously, for Bitcoin to be successful in this sort of decentralized world, you need the miners to be mining. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work properly.
If you're focused upon the price dynamics of Bitcoin, I think it's much more interesting to look at what the banks do, because as the large banks roll out credit against BTC, and you see a lot of enthusiasm from Citi, from Schwab, from JP Morgan, from BNY Mellon, et cetera, as they roll out credit, they're going to negate the miners' influence by a factor of 10. Also, the embrace of large Wall Street firms, the rollout of the next BlackRock Bitcoin Income Fund is going to have a big impact. And of course, the growth of digital credit that we're issuing. We sold $7 billion last year. We sold $400 million in a few weeks this year. So the issuance of that credit on top of that network is going to be 10x the price impact of anything that the miners do or don't do. They're really a third order effect at this point in the future of the network.
Real quick, if you were to make a prediction about where Bitcoin is, call it 12 months from now, what do you think?
You know, I don't really make predictions over 12 months. I think the Bitcoin is going to double to triple the performance of the S&P over the next 4 to 8 years, and I think that's the only thing we need to know.
Michael Saylor, always good to talk.
That's it, right? I think it's good to hear these perspectives. Of course, that doesn't mean that everything that Michael Saylor says needs to necessarily come true, right? But if the NASDAQ, which traditionally does like 18% or so year over year, and Bitcoin does 25%, then he's right, and it just outperforms that, right? And that means you go down 1 year, Bitcoin puts in a new all-time high afterwards, goes up 150% or so. I mean, you can be down quite some time. If then in 1 year you go up 100%, then you have your year-over-year growth, right? This is just the nature of the game. Bitcoin does these returns in 1 single year, and then you have to calculate that over the 4 years. You can absolutely complete this year lower than before, right? And still have these returns year over year measured over the time frame. There's no point in history where anyone that is longer than 4 years in Bitcoin is in the negative, right? Except maybe in this bear market bottom, because if you have, let's calculate that quickly. If you have bought here in, let's take this point, because we are at 60, we are exactly at this level, right? So that would be 1,767 days. So right now, maybe right now at 67,000, no, actually that's not true, because this was 64,000. So right now these people are technically a couple of percent in the plus, but if you deduct inflation, then not, right? 1,553 days. Yeah, that would be these guys that bought the absolute top here. They are slightly in the negative here, right? So they might, that might be, but other than that, everyone who bought anywhere before that is in the plus, still on this absolute drawdown right now. Anyways, guys, for today, that's it. We did over an hour today. I hope you found a little bit of value here. If you did, then smash up the like button, please, for this live stream. I know in bear markets no one cares, but I think this is where money is to be made. So do your research, stay safe, build some dry powder so you can allocate it in case that Bitcoin goes below the 200-week moving average at 57,000, which would be then an absolute fire sale. And we see each other in the next Crypto Morning Coffee, hopefully very, very soon. And wherever you are on the world, have a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. I see you and catch you in the next video live stream. Have a good one, everyone, and bye.